Hey there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. In this video, I'm going to be sharing a flip through of my 2022 Mini Me album and sharing a little bit more about what that is. So go ahead and stick around and let's dive right in. Okay, so I want to start with talking about what is my Mini Me album. So this is an album that I started in 2022. It is a 6x8 stories album that is stories that are about me. And they've expanded this in 2023. I have one, and I actually am going to have a second volume for 2023. But really the practice here is for me to have a place to store smaller stories. Or deeper stories, just stories that don't go in my regular albums. So if you followed me for a while, you know that I document my daily life in Project Life. Currently, I'm using a 9x12 album. In 2022, I used a 12x12 album, and I wanted a place to document stories beyond Project Life. So some of these are more reflective, some of them are deeper stories. I do have story albums that are 9x12 that I add to periodically. Those tend to span multiple years at a time. I don't add to them in any sort of pattern or anything. And I wanted a place where I could add more regularly with more intention and be more specific or more raw in my stories, I guess. So I'm focusing with using the story kits. Some of them are very simple layouts. Some of them are more complicated, but it's really telling deeper stories about me. There are some stories, especially once I got into my 2023 album, that are not about me, and I decided to just include all of my stories in these albums rather than have different albums for different stories, but I'll talk about that in the future. For 2022, this was a year, so at the beginning of 2022, I went through a divorce. It has now been, over a year since this point in time, but at that time it was very raw with the emotions and just going through a lot. And although it was what was right for me, I felt like I needed a place to kind of get that out on paper. And if you have followed me for a while, you probably know that I scrapbook in part to help my mental health and to take care of myself. So a lot of my scrapbooking is reflective. Sometimes it is look forward thinking, goal setting. It's not always, this is just what happened. I don't just document, oh, here was, the pretty Halloween costumes or something. And I do those layouts also, and there is so much value in doing that. But I also like to scrapbook to really reflect on, what is important to me, and practice gratitude and practice journaling and practice all of those things and let it all out on the paper. So when I initially started this album, my intention for it was not to share this online. So a lot of these pages you have not seen, and you are going to see a lot of places where the journaling is covered up. However, as I began to heal and had more lighthearted stories, things were, I did start sharing things online, especially as I worked through the story kits. And I figured now it made sense to share a flip through just with a lot of the journaling covered up. So I started this with kind of some intentions for 2022, and I actually wrote this in March. So I didn't start this right at the very beginning, but it was just kind of, ready to begin, because March was really when, we had already had that discussion that divorce was imminent. We were definitely doing this. And so I was like, okay, I'm starting this new chapter of my life with this album. And here's just a photo of me. And some of these I think were from the Begin story kit. I do use a lot of the story kits in here. I think this was from the whole story kit. So I'm just adding in different things. I have some journaling about reflections on January and just like my life in general. It's just, a place to journal, adding in some photos and some cards. It's also a good way to use up some of these like journaling cards. And some of these like sentiments and stuff, well, I could put these in my Project Life album, and I do from time to time. That is more of a place, although I do keep real stories in there, and I don't only document like the fun and positive. that is an album that I share with more people. And although I am sharing this online, I am covering up a lot of things. And this isn't really one that I would put out in my living room shelf. So then here I'm also using some of the stories by the month kits. And this was just kind of, setting some intentions for the year. I put a photo in here. I just liked the ability to kind of fill in these pockets. I do have a mixture of pocket pages and outside the page protector. I think I'm primarily working outside the page protector in here. Here I was working in a class from Allie Edwards that was taught by Laura Wanzik that is about using scrapbooking for therapy, which was part of kind of the impetus for me to start this album. I've always kind of done this. But she is a therapist herself that teaches that class, and she did have a lot of exercises, and I wanted a home for them. So I have one which has some journaling in this pocket here. I have another photo of myself on here with a quote. This is some like mixed media from that class and some of those additional prompts. So here's like a letter to myself of like looking back, and I pulled up some letters for me over time. So I have this one of me at 35. I have me at 25, 17, and 3. I wanted to do 15 and 5, but I couldn't find those like on my computer. So this is what I had. And I liked seeing, my growth through the decades and do some journaling. And it's fun to have a place for these stories that are not like right now, or even if they are, I don't really want them in my project life. And with the 6x8 size, so sometimes I decide to put things in here just because I want to do the 6x8. This was also from the class, that personality multitudes tests. I love these things. I've done the Myers-Briggs before. I've done the Enneagram before. I've done the love languages and strengths previously, but the values I think was the first time I did it was in this class. And so it was fun to do this and document these in here. So when I decide if something's going into this album versus like my Project Life album or my Larger Stories album, this is pretty much if I want to do a 6x8, I'm going to put it in here. Project Life are only things that are like current stories. But this one right here, this is a current story. So this is just kind of me reflecting on growing, the way I see it. If you want the rainbow, you got to put up with the rain. And I love this quote. So I just wanted like a place for more like play right in here. So this is just I love how this came out doing this embroidery on here, but I don't love this stamping. I wish I had stamped with a larger font. I think it would have been much better, but it is what it is. And it's still nice, but I think I would have liked this if this was like a bit larger, black, bold. This would have been an amazing page. Here I'm using the Write Story Kit. So this is kind of like, I started to sort of morph this into a story kit album and do more of that like reflective. So I used the Write Story Kit. This one was, those story kits also have these prompt pages that are 6x8. So it's very easy to do quick layouts to go in here. Here's another project for that. And I try to do at least 3 projects using the story kits plus a Project Life spread. Now I'm trying to do more because I am doing the planning in the story kit classroom, but I don't necessarily do all of them. So I have this transparency here. Here's some additional journaling. I have about just different things going on in my life right now. And then I have some like harder words in here about different topics. So like this one, these were with story kit, but this is like my divorce, summer, my daughter, so parenting, a teenager, refinancing my house, and my job. So just different things that were like bringing me stress and kind of reflecting on that. Here I did these saying yes and saying no cards, which was just a fun practice. And this is actually really fun because the story kit that is releasing this month is yes and no. And I think this is a great layout jumping off point. And when I was working on planning for that story kit, I thought of this page that I had done in 2022 and thought, now it's been a year and a half. I would like to do this again for using the yes, no story kit. This one I think was the good story kit, and I just had fun kind of collaging some things on here. So some of these are lighthearted stories. It's just, getting the stories told. And in my album, a lot of focus on me and reflective journaling. Like there's not a lot about my daughter in here. There is some, there's not a lot about, you know, my cat, my house, like some of that stuff does show up, but the primary focus is on me. So this is just the currently story kit, some stuff, just some currently stories about me. Here's one with my daughter, and some of these were actually in my Plan, Prep, Play class, and I shared complete process videos for those with more in-depth about it, so I'm not going to talk too much about those ones. Here is just taking a journaling card from one of the kits. I think this was the Good Story Kit. Pairing it with a photo and a chipboard and doing a little bit of journaling is just a great way to use up some of those products. Again, this was from the open one. Here again, this was from my Plan, Prep, Play class. I am here doing some just making lists is another great thing I love to do in my album. So this itself was just one little page. This 3x8 from, I think, the Awesome Story Kit. And just reflecting things. This is the top 10 ways to unwind, just making a little page here. Here's something about my house, my home goals. This has my address right there. I think that was the number story kit. And yeah, this is the number, the quarterly scrapbook kit, the numbers kit. So it was the top 10. Here's another list of 10. And then there were some numbers. So I use those for my address right there. This was another one in Plan, Prep, Play. Here was, I don't think this was the reading story kit, but this quote made me think of reading. So I like to do a reflection of all the books I read in the year. So this was 2022. I did not read that much. I only finished 12 books. But I just did some reflection on that. And in 2023, I'm doing so much better. I don't remember how many books I have read so far, but it's way more than 12. Which, I mean, that's still great. And I read some very good books this year. But I did do some like reflection on that. The Lost Apothecary was my favorite book of the year, I love that book so much. Here's the Wander Story Kit. I really loved how this cover page came out. This was just talking about hiking and something I love to do. So, you know, another lighthearted story in here. And then I'm just coming to the end. At the end, I filled in some of these pages after 2022. Just to fill in some gaps, so go back and tell some stories. So this one I just recently shared on my Instagram. This is me setting my goals for 2023. Of course, now it is October 2023, so I know already how these things went, which ones I did, which ones I didn't. So I kind of use this mentally as a check-in, but I had these all written out in my planner, so I was able to pull them from there that I did write them in January, and this was a photo from January. This was from my December daily in 2022. I did a sampler sheet. If you don't know what I'm talking about for this, I did share more about this on one of the posts I had on the Allie Edwards blog that we're prepping for December daily. And I do plan to do one of these in 2023. I don't think this guy goes here. Maybe he does. Unsure. I'm unsure if this was from there or if it came from something else, but I don't know where it would have come from. So, I don't think it goes there though. Okay, I'm flipping over, but yeah, this is just kind of documenting my December daily itself, and I will do one for 2023. And then here was a reflection page, which I shared over my Instagram today in sharing this video. Unfortunately, my typewriter kind of messed up. I don't use my typewriter that much, but it was just kind of a reflection on the year as a whole and moving into 2023. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that this gave you some ideas for how you could document your stories. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Thanks. Bye.